When my dad was released from work on a sick leave, I remember going to his house and we sat down and we were talking, and I remember just asking him, like, what's going on? What's been going on? And he's just remember telling me, I just forget things, and I just, I'm like, are you scared to tell somebody? I mean, was it something like you were embarrassed about? And he said, yeah. He said yes to both. I mean, him being that man to always be there for the family, he was always being supportive, not only just emotionally, but just even financially. He was that guy that was pulling the train. If you slacked a little bit, needed a little help financially or something, he was that guy to always be there for you. And I remember, sitting at the kitchen table and like, you hungry? You thirsty? And him saying, no, I was thirsty. So I remember going in the fridge and just smelling this raw chicken, just nasty smell of rotten chicken. And I'm like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, and I pulled the chicken out, and I think it was like 2 weeks expired. And I'm like, have you been eating? And at this point too, that was the point where Dad was also getting skinny. And I'm like, why do you got spoiled chicken? He's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm like, did you forget how to cook? And he nodded with his head like, no, yeah, yeah. It was like he wanted to admit it, but he didn't. And that's when I really said to myself, Dad was that guy. I mean, he's like me. I mean, he's that routine, get up, do this, do that, do that. Everything was set up for him to have rotten chicken. And he's a really clean guy. I mean, my dad would always just be that too clean of a guy. House always looked good, smelling good. For him to have rotten chicken was something that's unlike him so much. And then looking at the counter now, there was these bills, and so many of them were past due. And that's something unlike my dad too, because he was always, like I say, he was that scheduled guy. For him to forget bills was unheard of, and that's when it struck me again. It was like, man, reality kind of really hit me, like, whoa, like something's really happening. Me and my brother, Esteban, we went to this neurologist appointment.
The doctor's asking him to just do basic tests. They had it was probably like 5 or 6 questions on there.
And he said, Jose, what day is it? And my dad, he guessed the date, it was right. And then he gave him this real short-term memory test. And he said, Jose, I want you to take this piece of paper and I want you to write the word world. He wrote it. And then he gave him another instruction. He was like, I want you to fold it in half perfectly and place it underneath your seat that you're sitting on. Well, he gave him those instructions, and my dad folded it in half perfectly and then looked at me and my brother like, what do I do next? From there, he gave him obviously a bad grade on a short-term memory test.
So the doctor, after that, they scheduled the MRI for him to see what else was going on.
And the neurologist looked at the scan and said, there's definitely some shrinkage in the frontal lobe. We're going to diagnose your dad with a type of dementia.
And I just remember my father looking down at his appointment card for his next appointment. And he just says to me, he's like, so something's really wrong with me, huh? And just hearing him say that, it just broke my heart.
But as time went on, there were so many things that we were now looking at. Him working so many hours, 70 hours, 60 hours a week, that now fell back to, you're now getting sickness and accident leave, and the pay for it was not great. You got to figure taxes, and then the man still paid alimony from his previous marriage. The divorce, he was paying $1,000 a month. So the man was getting, I think, about $350 a month at the time. And that's not enough to pay your $1,500 mortgage and all your bills you're paying. And not to mention, he was helping a sibling who was struggling at the time, and his sister, up in Michigan, he was throwing money at because she needed help, and his brother that he's been helping for years down in Texas, he was, giving him money. It was so much responsibility financially that he had. We have to deal with many things, not just Dad's illness, but financially, we got some serious issues coming up. After his diagnosis, he moved in with me. And I remember the thought of him moving with me was just like, okay, this is serious now. Dad's losing his home, he doesn't work, and he has to live with me now. Like, this is hitting us hard pretty quick already. Now it was, hey, I'm going to work and my dad's sleeping, he's sleeping in. He's like a teenage kid now, he's sleeping in my house and I'm going to work to pay the bills, It was kind of a reverse role real quick, and to me it was very different. For the first time in my life, I kind of felt like if anything bad happened, Dad would always be there to help me. And as time went on, like I say, 4 months he was living with me. When it came to that 6th, 7th month of him living with me, it was like he was getting a little worse. It was one day I was gonna leave. I was gonna go to the store that day. I remember my dad got up and him saying he wanted breakfast. And I said, you wanna make oatmeal? And he said, yeah. I said, okay. So what I did is I closed the door, and it's kind of like I was being a kid. I was being real sneaky. I closed the door real hard, and I snuck back in the hallway. And to him, he probably thought I left. And I remember just like sneaking around the corner and looking at my dad around the fridge. He didn't know I was there. And he got a bowl and he poured the oatmeal in there. And he's just staring at the bowl for like 10, 15 seconds, just staring at it. And then he grabs a spoon and he grabbed a bottled water from the fridge. It was cold as ever. And he just pours it into the oatmeal. No sugar, no cinnamon. And now he's just eating this oatmeal. And I remember just like, flipping back, like away from his view, from by the refrigerator, and just like, it kind of like really hit me like, ooh, like, this is bad. You know my name today?
Yeah.
What's my name today?
That's your
What's my name?
something.
You don't know my name today?
No.
You want 1 piece or 2 pieces of toast?
Yeah.
How many, Dad?
Sometimes I don't think.
You don't know how many pieces?
No.
You want 5, dude?
No.
You want to eat up? You want to watch some? You want to watch some tunes or something while you're eating? See if I can find it. My dad receiving his extended disability benefits for, I think it was 6 or 7 months from Chrysler, they gave us a letter, and this letter told us, they said, listen, you need to apply for Social Security. If you don't apply for Social Security, you will lose all your money. Me and my dad one day, we went downtown, and it was like 9 in the morning, and I had to take off work, and we go to the building, and we put his Social Security number in. We get called in about 30 minutes later, and the lady looks at us and she says to my dad, she says, you're not a citizen, are you? And that was one big thing that as a family we accepted, that he came in on a visa. The student slash, he was the worker, it was like a work permit as well, and he never went home. And I remember being so scared, like, oh my God, our family secret's out, oh my God, this is something that he's kept hidden from so many people for so many years. And sitting down with him, he looks at me like, he's like, wow, like, he's scared, I'm scared. I'm looking at the guard in the Social Security building, and I'm like, they're gonna arrest us, or is immigration to come through? But in my mind, I'm like, you know what? It was something my dad, he's always ran away from in his life. It was always a secret of, hey, I can't do this, I don't got my papers. It was something he was always in fear of. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna be scared of him being exposed, because at this point, we have no choice. We need help. We need help, period. I remember about an hour later, this lady calls us back and she sits us down. She's like, listen up, you know, we can approve you for your Social Security, but you're not gonna get a cent of any Social Security until you get your permanent residence card. That was a big hit because at that point in my mind, I knew Dad was gonna get worse. And if he's not getting financial help, who is gonna watch Dad when I'm going to work? Who is going to provide him for the care he needs? Who is going to, you know, even therapies for him were needed at the time. I mean, it was something that I couldn't afford. It was like a time frame we had. It was like, you know, the stopwatch, it started right there. Like, we have to do something for him quick before all this pressure is not only gonna affect, you know, Jose like it did financially, but also his son. You know, I was looking at me like, man, if I can't get help for him, am I gonna have to sell my car? Am I gonna have to, so many things came through to where I had to really prepare myself for the worst.